In your headlines, an unfortunate turn of events for a Dominican mother and another family of tourists over the weekend. A community petition launched back in 2020 posted with an aim at removing Commissioner Trevor Botting as head of RTCIPF has been reposted. And RBC announced donations to 8 Caribbean charities. From the PTV Broadcasting Headquarters in Providenciales, your #1 source for news, I'm Erica Pinales delivering the latest from across the country this Tuesday, April 19th, 2022, right to your door. Newswatch starts now. An unfortunate turn of events for a Dominican mother and another family of tourists over the weekend, one ending in tragedy, the other in very serious injuries. Newswatch has the details.
Police are calling it a domestic dispute turned homicide after a middle-aged Dominican woman died from injuries she sustained at the hands of who we now learn to have been her ex-boyfriend. Sources say a man driving a personal vehicle pulled up at the Cheshire Hall Medical Center's emergency department and dropped off an injured woman. Police would later confirm that a vehicle driven by her ex-boyfriend struck the woman on Thursday, April 14th. He has since surrendered to police after an investigation was launched into a domestic violence report. The woman's injuries led to her being flown back to her home country to receive emergency medical care, where she died on Friday, April 15th. We learned that the suspect is also a native of the Dominican Republic. He is still in police custody. Another very unfortunate incident, an American tourist on Saturday chopped twice to the arm with a machete in front of his family after thieves made their way into their villa in the Bight on Sunday night. The heroic father received 2 deep, fleshy wounds to his arm and was taken to the Cheshire Hall Medical Center for treatment. The family, we are now told, is back home in America. Residents are calling on big action by the governor, the government, and the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands police force. The country continues to reach impressive visitor numbers, so much so that the airport has experienced hiccups with high traveler numbers over the last month. However, this spike in crime against visitors will begin to damage the tourism product if something big, effective, and immediate isn't done. A 2020 community petition has been republicized, with residents calling on the removal of Trevor Botting as Commissioner of Police, citing his alleged incompetence, saying that they as a people have lost complete confidence in the commissioner and as a result, the force at large.
The Turks and Caicos Chamber of Commerce was recently offered the opportunity by the TCIG to take part in discussions with the International Monetary Fund on the current tax framework in the TCI, including its cost and benefits and how it compares to other countries in the region. Newswatch with the details.
The IMF is an international financial institution which promotes international financial stability, economic growth, and monetary cooperation, among other goals. In an interview with Honorable E.J. Saunders, the Deputy Premier and Minister of Finance, he explains why the study is being conducted.
The government, while we're doing well as a country in terms of earning revenue, large portions of the revenue, large percentage portions of the revenue are unpredictable. So as an example, stamp duty, which makes up a fairly big percentage of it, can be really high one year and another year can be very low. And so in order to be able to make the revenues of the country more predictable, meaning that we can have a pretty good idea of what it's going to be from year to year, we commissioned the study which the IMF is conducting. So we commissioned the study, again with the IMF is conducting, to be able to get an understanding on how we could come up with ways in which we could stabilize their revenues and have a better ideas in terms of how we could continue to grow, but do it in a manner that's predictable from year to year.
From the release that was published titled as the tax framework in the Turks and Caicos Islands, many persons claim to be confused as there was a focus on the possibility of introducing a broad-based consumption tax as value-added tax in the TCI.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of implementing taxes. We're looking at revenue measures, and so part of dealing with the cost of living is this exact same thing. Because you'd look at it and you'd say, wait a minute, how can we provide relief to our population? Where are they spending the money? Where are they spending, like where's the cost coming in? Is the cost coming in at the port? So what can we do to to reduce costs at the port? Where can we do to reduce costs in a different area? Where can we do what we can do to reduce costs at the point of sales in the supermarket? And so these revenue measures is the exact same thing that allows you to have a better understanding of how you can reduce the cost to one segment and maybe have another segment coverage.
Although speculations arose on social media of the forms of direct taxation the government is considering, such as payroll tax and or property tax, the Minister of Finance says that this is not the case.
Well, we're not looking at any type of taxation right now. We're looking at the revenue measures. And again, it was a study that we conducted to say, how can we continue to grow as a country, but stabilize it, because it's concerning for us that there's a portion of the population that's paying and quote unquote taxes higher than we would like for them to pay, but there's also a portion of the population that's paying little to no taxes for things like services, professional services. Architects, lawyers, and those things are paying no taxes. And so it doesn't mean that we're going to roll out taxes in that area or do anything in any area. We just want to get an understanding at this point of how the country earns money and where we could provide relief to our citizens, but without having to collapse the revenue. Like, we want to get to the country bringing in $500 million, which I've talked about, not at the end of this term, but at the end of in about 9 years.
The minister reminded that what's being conducted is a revenue measure, which is to see how relief can be provided to a portion of the population that most needs it.
What happened in this case is that the IMF, that's normally associated with taxes, ran around speaking with stakeholders. And some of those stakeholders figured, oh my goodness, it's going to be taxed. But the consultants, again, the IMF, job is to say, we're looking at these things. Here are the different options. VAT is a particular option. A GST is an option. Would you be amicable to this? What do you think about this? So they can come back to us and say, here are the different things we've seen happening. This is what your tax regime looks like. Here are our recommendations. But here's the feedback from the public. But some of the members of the public saw them and saw the options and say, oh, the government is considering this. The government hasn't considered anything as yet. The government has just commissioned a study to understand how our revenues are coming, where the revenue streams are, how consistent they are, if they're predictable, where we think that we're overcharging, where we think that we're undercharging in terms of taxes, and where we could provide relief to the public, the general public, but still not have to write that revenue, or where we can make it up in other areas.
Finally, the minister extended a few words to the general public.
Well, I want the public to know that, and some of the things that I've said before, is that when we came into government, the country was on track to do a little bit more than 300 million. But definitely less than 350 million in terms of revenue. My goal is to get it by the end of our term to at least 400 million, and then we're given a second term to get to 500 million. And why would we want to do that? Right now we have certain ratios, and we have to understand that we have certain ratios that we have to meet. And so what we could spend on civil servants and civil servant salaries and benefits, the cap is 40%. So if on a 300 million budget, that's 120 million that you could spend on it. On civil servants and their benefits. At 500 million, that's revenue, that's 200 million you could spend on it. So we can get, just in that alone, if we can get to 500 million, we can pay the civil servants $200 million in terms of their benefits. So imagine, that's a huge increase for the civil servants. That means that they don't have to be thinking that they're not making any money. That means we can do more for our teachers, we can do more for our medical staff, we can do more for the police, we can give everybody the equipment that they need, but we'll have more money to spend to take care of the country. So we will have a very nice manicured country. And when I say manicured, where the roads are really nice and there's sidewalks and there's landscaping, but all those things has to be paid for by revenues that are predictable. And we can't get to 500 million one year and then start doing those things, and all of a sudden the next year it drops back down to 300 because we don't have any understanding of it. So the more the country does, the better the country does. It means that the better we can do for our people, including the civil service who gets paid by government. So these are the sorts of things we want to do. So we want to get to a point where the revenues are sufficient enough where the country, we can keep the best country in the world, if not in our region.
Don't go anywhere. More News Watch when we return.
This is a reminder that all PTV service accounts are due on the first day of each month. Accounts should be brought up to date by the 28th of the month to avoid disruption in service. Payments may be made on our office at Stubbs Diamond Plaza, Providenciales, Mides Plaza, North Caicos, and Airport Road in South Caicos. Payments may also be made online using Scotiabank, CIBC First Caribbean Bank, and Royal Bank of Canada. Please allow 3 business days for online payments to be processed. We thank you for your cooperation.
Welcome back to Newswatch. The community petition launched back in 2020 seems to have been recently reposted with an aim at removing Commissioner Trevor Botting as head of the RTCIPF. The petition has garnered over 100 signatures. Newswatch brings you that report.
The petition Tuesday morning stood at 102 signatures, with persons signing as late as Monday. The appeal posted by McAllister H. back in May of 2020 to the governor and government of the Turks and Caicos Islands. It was introduced saying, quote, "We the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands, Turks and Caicos Islanders and non-Turks and Caicos Islanders, hereby call for the Commissioner of Police, Trevor Botting, to be fired and relieved of his duties as Commissioner of Police of the Turks and Caicos Islands, effective immediately," end quote. The post cited to a dramatic increase in crime since 2019 and alludes to the commissioner's alleged failure to reduce and solve crimes. It also mentions a spike in border breaches, irregular community police presence in crime hotspots, and failure to implement a steady public relations procedure which offers publishing of important information or reports and crime statistics in a timely manner. Somehow, the petition was publicized just recently in the midst of yet another heinous spike in serious crime, which began in January of this year and has shown a steady and alarming increase ever since. The petition seeks to get to 200 signatures.
Through its advocacy and crime and security committees, the TCHTA has supposedly maintained regular communications with leader of the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force team with a view to lend assistance where possible in the collective fight against crime in our country. Here's more.
During a recent meeting with the Commissioner of Police, Trevor Botting, the association was reportedly given an in-depth overview of the country's current crime statistics and the comprehensive initiatives the RTCIPF has launched to curb the pervasive uptick in crime that is infiltrating our communities. Despite the positive steps being taken by the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force, there has been an appalling increase in brazen acts of crime over the last few months, which have begun to paralyze the residents of the Turks and Caicos Islands. Daily, there are cries from the community for swift resolution and firm action against the criminal element. Sadly, these cries are muffled by reports of shootings, aggravated burglaries, crime sprees, and murders. These flagrant acts of crime have continued amid an ongoing gun amnesty, giving evidence to the fact that the criminal element residing amongst us do not seek to live within the confines of the law and are not fearful of the fallout from their crimes. The TCHTA informs Newswatch that they are to join the community in the appeal for swift, firm, and immediate action against this building problem, as the effects on crime on our society are far-reaching. In a recent statement, Commissioner Botting declared that such acts are ruining young lives in the TCI and have no place in our society. The TCHTA say that they wholeheartedly agree and affirm its commitment to partnering with the RTCIPF in whatever way the organization is allowed. President of the TCHTA, Trevor Musgrove, shared, "We're pleased to have an excellent channel of communication between the association and the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force executive team. Unfortunately, we have seen more brazen acts of crime displayed over these past few months, which is of great concern. Though we represent the members of the TCHTA and hospitality professionals, crime does not only pose a threat to the stability of the tourism industry, but can swiftly erode the very fiber of our communities if left unchecked and untethered." He continued, residents of this country should feel safe in their homes, moving about their communities and operating their businesses, and we must not allow the fearless criminal element to gain confidence that they have the power or freedom to victimize and terrorize law-abiding citizens. Sadly, victimization and fear have been recurring themes in our communities recently, and residents are left wondering how much longer they will be terrorized by these abhorrent acts. In a recent informational video, the Superintendent of Divisions and Community Policing, Dwight Gardner, told the public that members of the RTCIPF are the stewards of security for the country. The association expresses to be encouraged by the push for strong community policing as the police team battles the serious crimes, firearm-relating offenses, and long-standing issues of reoffending that the superintendent says are some of the prevalent challenges we are faced with in the Turks and Caicos Islands. The association hopes for a wider approach to tackling the underlying issues that are at the root of these inexcusable acts. Commissioner Botting has referred to what is being experienced in TCI as a cycle of violence, and that the young men in our society have to find another way to live their lives rather than through violence and guns. The TCHTA believes that not only do we need to act collectively to protect law-abiding citizens, but there must also be a grand push to save our youth from being enticed into a life of crime by those who seek to recruit more of our promising young men and women, robbing them of their bright futures. The February and March Turks and Caicos crime updates released by the police have included statements from Commissioner Botting that speak of a trail of tragedy across these beautiful islands that is unacceptable in any civilized society. This particular statement came on the heels of a 5-day period where a high volume of serious violent crimes was committed across Providenciales, including armed robberies, shots fired at a business establishment, the shooting of 2 young men, and the murders of 3 individuals, bringing the murder count in early March 2022 to 4. More recently, shots fired in broad daylight in a densely populated area of Turks and Caicos has caused heightened concern by residents as fears rise in the wake of these alarming incidents. The association is also encouraged by the RTCIPF's long-term crime-fighting plans that are forward-thinking and will position our police force to provide a more sophisticated and aggressive approach to curbing crime in the long term. Initiatives like the recent gun amnesty are a positive move toward ridding our communities of the tools used by officers, and the TCHTA is pleased that the RTCIPF has extended the term for the program. The TCHTA reminds those at the helm that the association is eager to partner in this fight, if allowed, and firmly believe that any efforts moving forward will only see success if the visions and actions of all stakeholders are aligned as we push toward a zero-tolerance approach to ridding our country of these senseless and debilitating crimes.
Don't touch that remote. We'll be right back. Coming up next is your sports authority and weather forecast.
This is a reminder that all PTV service accounts are due on the first day of each month. Accounts should be brought up to date by the 28th of the month to avoid disruption in service. Payments may be made on our office at Stubbs Diamond Plaza, Providenciales, Mides Plaza, North Caicos, and Airport Road in South Caicos. Payments may also be made online using Scotiabank, CIBC First Caribbean Bank, and Royal Bank of Canada. Please allow 3 business days for online payments to be processed. We thank you for your cooperation.
Welcome back to Newswatch. Here's the latest in your sports authority and weather forecast.
Teams from across the Caribbean region gathered in Kingston, Jamaica this weekend to celebrate and participate in the 49th Carifta Games. The TCI was well equipped with a group of 18 athletes who were eager to represent and compete in the Games. The home country Jamaica heavily dominated the overall medal count, winning a total of 97 medals. However, Team TCI managed to make its mark and showed promise of progression in athletics for the country. Whistling Harvey endured a rigorous 8 events to capture bronze in the heptathlon, finishing with a total of 4,888 points. Whistling placed first in his 110-meter hurdles heat and second to Lyndon Johnson of the Bahamas in the 100 meters heat. On the field, Lynn Antoine made history on day 3 of the games by breaking the national record on her 5th attempt in the long jump under 20 girls final. Her new record stands at 5.12 meters. We'll bring you more from the curve of the games in a subsequent newscast. Reporting for PTV Newswatch, I'm Ali Carvey.
Here's your weather forecast for April 19th, 2022. For the nation's capital, Grand Turk, on Wednesday, scattered showers, high 79, low 75, winds east at 10 to 20 miles per hour. For South Caicos on Wednesday, scattered showers, high 79, low 75, winds east at 10 to 20 miles per hour. For North and Middle Caicos, scattered showers, high 80, low 75, winds east-northeast at 10 to 20 miles per hour. For Parrot and Pine Key, scattered showers, high 79, low 75, winds east-northeast at 10 to 20 miles per hour. And on Providenciales, scattered showers, high 79, low 75, winds east-northeast at 10 to 20 miles per hour. Now for your sunrise and sunset. Sunrise 6:26 a.m., sunset 7:11 p.m. And for your high tides and low tides 11:06 a.m., 11:36 p.m. And for your low tides, 5:07 a.m., 5:06 p.m. And that's it for your weather forecast. We'll be right back with more News Watch.
Here at People's Television, we're more than just your leading news and entertainment services. We are
spreading the gospel.
We are breaking barriers.
We are preserving the culture. Each one, teach one.
We are committed to excellence.
We're creating change.
We are creating memories.
We are the future. I am PTV.
I am PTV. I am PTV.
I am PTV.
We are PTV.
We are continuing the legacy. We are PTV.
Welcome back to Newswatch. In observance of the International Day of Pink, RBC announced donations on April 13th to 8 Caribbean charities that take a stand against bullying.
Chris Ronald, the head of Caribbean banking at RBC, said, RBC and its employees have long been global leaders in promoting diversity and inclusion. It is integral to our values to provide an environment where employees can bring their authentic selves to work without fear of harassment, bullying, marginalization, or discrimination. As an organization committed to helping its clients thrive and communities prosper, RBC claims to be pleased at the announcement of donations to 8 charities across the Caribbean that are working to stamp out bullying and discrimination. Those charities are firstly, the Trinidad and Tobago's Credo Foundation, Barbados' Supreme Counseling for Personal Development, the Bahamas Caribbean Voice, Cayman's Families Resource Center, Aruba's Justice for Courtney, Curaçao's Human Rights Defense Foundation, Turks and Caicos' the Youth Empowerment and Mentorship Conference, and St. Martin's UNICEF SXM. Each of the charities are to receive $500 from RBC to assist in their fight against bullying and discrimination.
That brings us to the end of this edition of The Real News. I hate to leave you so soon, but of course, you can join us right back here every weekday at 6:30 p.m. and tap into our social media platforms at www.ptv8tci.com. I'm Erica Pinales, keeping you informed, updated, and affiliated. Until next time.